Hey folks, it's Eugene here and welcome to another video. Today what I am going to be doing is camera calibration inside of AMP5 software. Now, if you're saying, hey, what are you talking about? AMP5 doesn't have camera calibration? Well, you're wrong. It does now. So the latest update, June 2025, they released a camera calibration that is based on OpenCV. So we are going to run through some of that and show you how we can do that. Now, in the past, if you had to do some kind of an undistort or fix all of the barrel distortion inside of a wide angled lens, you'd have to do it using some other filters. And so if I just come up here to the filters, you'll see edit. And then if I go up here, there's correct fisheye and there's undistort. So those are a couple of options that you could use to mark some things that you know should be straight edges or straight lines. And when you mark them and they're bowed, it makes the correction for you. Okay. So that's pretty good. It works for many things and for most things too, but sometimes you don't have straight edges. And let me give you an example. If you've got a camera that's pointed on a grassy field, well, there's no straight lines that you can use. There may be no buildings there. You can't use trees. You don't have a lot of references there to use for using the correct fisheye and, marking these lines. So what we have now is a way of doing this based on a calibration pattern. Okay, so let me bring that up here. I've got one beside me as well, but this is an example. I just made this one up inside of PowerPoint or whatever, and then I just made a PDF. There's different types, and in fact, when I made the first one, it's a little bit different than the one on the back side here that I have on this board. So this is just, black and white squares that are connected. And the one thing you need to know about this pattern is how many intersections it has in rows and columns. Okay. So this one here, it's sort of a very light color, but it says 9 inner corners by 6 inner corners. And like I said, this is one that I made it into a PDF. I can make it available or send it to people. Maybe I'll put a link to it in the video. So if you count across here, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so there's 9 rows and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 9 by 6 intersections on the calibration pattern. So that is what you need to know. Now, when I first did this video, I had this pattern here. It has a different arrangement. Okay. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8 by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's an 8 by 6 pattern. So you need to know that because inside of AMP5, I need to make adjustments for that. If I put in the wrong rows and columns on those intersections, then I have a problem. Now with this is just printed on regular paper. My printer is going a little funny. It's not as black as I would like, but it's good enough for the test that I'm doing. And I've got it on some cardboard. So I made sure I had some cardboard that was nice and flat. You don't want to be holding this up on a piece of paper or something that's really big that bends. You can print these out in different sizes. So if you want a larger sheet or a smaller sheet, but if you have a, letter 8.5 by 11 A4, those will typically work just fine. Typically you can get relatively close to a camera in order to do the calibration. That is one caveat. So let's say, for example, the camera is really far or really high up on a pole and you can't get close. Well, in that case, you might be stuck. Okay. Or you'd have to print out a really, really big pattern and do the best you can. Okay. So let me show you what I got in AMP5 here, and we'll kind of just walk through the basic process. I do want to say this is new and I've just been messing with it preliminarily, so I don't probably know everything about it. So, all the disclaimers and caveats and everything else here, but I think I've got the basics going. So first thing I need to do is load a video. So we're going to go up here, load, and we're going to go to the video loader, and I'm just going to take one video that I've got here. So this is a video that was done with the Axon Body 3, and what I'm doing is I'm recording this pattern. Now, I could have moved the pattern to relative to the camera, or I just moved the camera on this board that's on a table here. That I figured that was just going to be easy for me. And there is a little bit of a technique in doing this. So you don't actually use the video, you're using the frames. But when you're positioning the camera relative to the calibration pattern, you want to cover as much of the lens as possible. So I wouldn't just take one image here at the center, because the majority of my barrel distortion is going to be at the edges. So I want to make sure that I got this pattern at different points at the edge, at the top edge, at the sides, and so forth. Okay, so let me show you the video here. I'm just going to shut off in case there's any audio, and let me just go ahead and press play, and we'll walk through. So, I start here in the middle, and then I go to the bottom left. I go up to the top left. Then I go back. I was supposed to go a little bit higher in the middle there, but then I drop down, okay, to the bottom. Then I go to the right side. I kind of go to the middle on the right side, and then at the end, I'll go up to the top. And I got to be careful because there's some text overlays there that I have to be careful of. Finally, what I do is I get in close, okay? So I'm going to get one kind of at the center, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the right, and then I'm going to go to the left. Now, there's different ways to do this. I've seen people do this in many different ways, farther, closer, whatever. So I don't know exactly 100% what is right or wrong in every situation, but this is the method that I used. It gives me enough coverage of the lens. It gets me a little bit farther and a little bit closer, okay? So what we need to do now is we need to pull some frames out of this. So I don't want to use the whole video. It doesn't make any sense to use every frame of the video. So for that, we're going to go to select frames, and I'm going to go to the sparse selector up here, and I got to scroll through here at the bottom. You see that it says add current. So I can add any frame that I want. I'm just going to use the U shortcut key as I do this. So let's say I'm somewhere at the middle here. I'm going to start with this one. Okay. And I've got that frame there. Then I'm going to go to that bottom left. I'll use that one. I'll do one kind of in the middle there on the left, one at the top. I'll use that one. Then I go back to somewhere around the middle here. That's okay. I wish I was a little bit higher, but I'll live with that one. I go down to the bottom. Let me see. Yeah, right about there. Then I'm going to go to the right side, that bottom part, somewhere around the middle, and then up at the top there. Let's see how close I can get. Yeah, I wish I tucked it in a little bit further in the corner, but that's okay. Okay, so you see that I've got areas outside that I haven't really covered. So it might have been better to get this closer to the edges if possible. If I redo this, that's probably what I would do. Now I'm going to go and put this in the middle. I get close. I'll take that one. I've got to take the one on the right. Let's say over there. And then I'll take one on the left. Let's see how close I get over there. That's about as good as I'm going to get right now. And I'll take that one. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So it looks like I got about 12 frames here. Now I'm going to hit apply. Okay, so I got the sparse select down here, and then I can work with these particular frames. Next, what I need to do is jump right into the camera calibration. So in order for me to do that, I've got to go to the edit, and down near the bottom now, you'll see that we've got this create camera calibration. So this is the new feature. So I've just clicked on it. And if I go up here and look at some of the settings, you see it says test pattern. So it defaulted to 9:6. But if you look at my pattern here, okay, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 intersections by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 intersections. I need to change this. Okay, that's not correct. The pattern that I made the PDF of actually has a 9:6. And keep in mind, it's these inside intersections. Okay, it's not the actual, don't count the rows and columns of the actual squares. It's the inside intersections. That's what you have to remember. So I've got 8:6. That's fine. Then I have to go to my calibration model. So you can play with this and use different things. I know that this is closer to a fisheye lens as far as I can tell. So I'm going to go to fisheye. And what I need to do is go to apply, okay? And then I'll be able to adjust this fisheye coefficient. And then I've got output, and on the output, it's going to show me the undistorted image, and then I can adjust the canvas size and such. So let me go back to my calibration model. I'm going to hit apply, and it's going to run through them, and it did that really, really fast. 12 images, it just flies through that, no problem. But you'll see already that the sides here are nice and straight. So, I've gotten rid of a lot of that barrel distortion. Now, if I go back to the output, let me go to the original. You'll see that here I've got a lot of bending, right? This is what I had. When I go to the undistorted, then it gets fixed. So it looks like it's done its job, I guess. Now, one thing we can do, if you go to your output and go to the original and go to the test pattern, you can show the live points. So basically, if I zoom in, it shows you that it detected all of the intersections on the full pattern. So if you want to see that, you can turn it on. I'm going to shut it off for now because I'm going to stick with the undistorted image like this. And the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to increase the canvas size, and I'm going to go to about let me go to about 2.6. That's a little bit big, but that's okay. It gets me everything that I need. So you can see I go right to the edges here. So some things that we need to know. If I go back to my calibration model, I've got this fixed principal point. Okay, the numerator coefficients and denominator coefficients are wiped out, or they're grayed out. I can't use them. And then I've got the fisheye coefficients. So the fixed principal point, it says assumes that the principal point optical axis of the lens is exactly at the center of the image. That is not always the case. It may be close, but it may never be perfectly at the center of the image. There could be a misalignment of the lens to the sensor. There could be some different things going on. So if I wanted to see what that looks like, if I uncheck this and hit apply, you see there was a little bit of a shift. Okay, there's a little bit of a shift. So when I click on this and hit apply, okay, let me zoom in a bit more and let me do that one more time. Okay, you see there's a little bit of a shift, and it went to the right a little bit, which is interesting. So I'll leave this on fixed principal point for the moment, but I'm going to come back to this in a second. Under here you have your fisheye coefficients. So the coefficients, if you've got more coefficients, it may do a better job of adapting to the changes in the distortion, which are not linear. So I've got it on 1 right now, but if I change this to 3 and I go apply, you'll see that it did something to the ends here. It sort of tucked it in a bit more, and it left a little bit more space. If I go to 4, okay, now it went the other way. Now it's actually stretching them more. So I don't have a really good reason or a way to tell you which one is better or worse, but I'm going to stick with 3. And part of the reason is if I go to 2, I can see that it's stretched out further. Here at 1, it's stretched out even further. And then if I go to 0, okay, it's even further. Things are stretched even more. So 3 is kind of like what I would expect if I was using Photo Modeler or another program. Now, I am going to show you this fixed principal point here. Let me zoom in. And let me uncheck this again and go apply. So you see there was this little bit of a shift. And what I want to show you here is look at the gap between the right side here and the left side. You see how we have more space here between the edges of the image, and here we have less. So that tells me that there's some kind of a shift left to right. So if I wanted to maybe make it more accurate, I may want to keep this off. But if it doesn't really matter where in the frame it was located, I could just say, hey, keep a fixed principal point, apply, and this would still allow me to do measurements and things like that. It wouldn't be wrong, but if there's a big mismatch between the principal point and the sensor, let's say, then you may want to uncheck this. Okay, so we've got our calibration model, which is great. We've got our output. You can adjust the canvas size just like I did. Now we want to save the result. Okay, so if you want to save the calibration file, we can go browse, and I'll just call this AB3 and just go okay. Now be careful, I hit okay down there, but I have to actually save the calibration here. So I'm going to go save the calibration. Okay, I've got it. And let's see. Well, let me view it. Let's see if it does it. It actually did bring it up here. So let me double click on it. There we go. So this is the Notepad file, or the actual file in Notepad. And let me just maximize this so you can see what I've got. But there's a lot to go through here. I won't go through it all, but it basically has my settings. It says, what the resolution of the images were, how many images that I have. And when I scroll down, when we start getting into these data sections here, now we're actually getting into the coefficients and the information that we are using for the correction. So if I'm not mistaken, these ones up here are the internal or the intrinsic parameters of the camera. And down here, these are some of the lens distortions, coefficients that we need to make the correction. So a lot of math in OpenCV and that sort of thing. I'm not getting into it. I think that's enough for me. So that's camera calibration. Hope you enjoyed it. And there's obviously a number of things that I could be missing, or maybe I was incorrect or whatever. So if so, just put it in the comments. And if you're interested in that pattern that I've got, the little calibration pattern, I'll put a link down to it in the video. If not, I'll have it on my website, or I'll try to put it someplace that's convenient. Maybe I'll even pass it on to some other people so we can all share it. Okay. All right, folks. Thanks a lot. Take care, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.